time to get the old motor out of the Boxster here. As you can see, I've already put the convertible top in the service mode, and I'll point a link up at the top there so you guys can see that video I did on how to do this yourself. Make sure this doesn't whack me in the head. In addition, I have removed both front seats. I'm also going to redo those seats the best I can to kind of freshen them up while we're doing this. But as you can see here, both plates are off to give us access to that engine. So at this point, as you can see, I've already jacked up the car, removed the drive wheels. I've removed the bumper cover and the bumper, giving me plenty of access to down below. Now you'll notice the muffler is gone as well. I'd removed that earlier in a video on that I can link to as well up there. But so the muffler's already gone and out of this car, so we have that already to go. In addition, the last person on the car removed the little triangle plate that goes up underneath the transmission that has the two longicles that go off like in a V. That plate was missing, so I had to buy a new one from Larry over at 20th Street Auto. Thank you, Larry. And I also got new bolts because all the bolts were missing for those two diagonals that are down there. So that, we are now ready to start work on this motor. Let's do this. Alright, so here we go. Starting in here. So I got some LED lights hooked up so we have plenty of light to see what we're doing. First thing I want to do is get in here and that mass airflow sensor right there. Takes a special tip. It's a safety bit tip. So I can get that to focus in. Right in there. We'll take that out real quick here. All right. Get that screw out. Pull the mass airflow sensor. That's what that bad boy looks like. Set it off to the side. Next, we need to remove the box from the mass airflow in there. Let's get that in there and just unscrew that. And that should come off. Done there. I went ahead and already pulled my air cleaner box as well. Let's see here real quick what else we got. Okay, so next we have the air conditioner right here. And as you can tell, I've already removed the air cleaner. Air filter. So this here, you just pull it out. And it's just a spade connector. Pretty simple. Just kind of push that back down in there. Then this one right here, you just kind of push out on that connector, and then that will gently pull out as well. Now, down in there is one of the 3 bolts that hold on the air compressor. So next, we have, oh look, not even connected. Nice, very nice. That is your power steering reservoir right here. We're going to take that off in a minute. But first, take off this vacuum hose right here. There are 2 screws right here. Let's take those off real quick. And this one. Yeah, I've already pre-loosened most of this up for video work. So that can be pulled off into the side right there. So on the bottom of this, you can take a syringe and siphon out all of the fluid that's in there. Again, this is power steering fluid, so be careful with it. It is some nasty ass shit. Down below right in here, it's the same connector as this. So you just reach in and you twist it. There it is, right there. And then that comes out just like that. And that's going to pull out a little bit later on. Next, you have this nut that holds down your ground strap. I'm going to take that off. Okay. Then there's 2 bolts back in here. You see I've already removed one. There's a second one. Just pull those out. Make sure we get those into a little baggie. Then you can pop that ground cable off. There it is right there. See, that's off now. And then you can also pull off that V-box. Now, mine is missing the cover, but there's usually a plastic cover on this that you can then pop off this way. So, that being said, that's off. That's disconnected, the reservoir, and we can grab that when we come back down. So, let's go to the other side of the motor. Okay, now on this side of the motor, this is your auxiliary air fan right here. Go ahead and just clip those together and you can pop that hose off. Then there are 3 nuts that hold the motor to this bracket, and then down here there's also these power leads. There's one that's off already, and just pull it off, and there are 2 circular leads there. So then this here, just simply undo those 3 nuts. Let's see if I can grab that. And this should be the last one. Got it off. There's 3 of these. And then reach in and just pull this out. Oh. There it is. That's out now. Okay, now that that's out of the way, over here there's a bolt that holds on this ground cable. Undo that bolt, and then you can just wiggle. Then you can just wiggle this right off. Okay, next there's the AOS, infamous AOF. There's squeeze buttons on these. Just want to squeeze them and pull. Same thing over here on the throttle body. Squeeze them, pull. And then, there we go. Kind of toss that off to the side there. Next, this is your oil fill tube. Again, it's another clamp. You pinch that with a pair of pliers, and that will pull off as well. Alright, let's see, what's next? Alright, next, we got this fuel rail, which is right there. Be ready, because some gas will be flowing. Now would be a good time to vent that gas cap. You know, this is the first time I've taken the gas cap off in this car. Sweet. Alright. Now, back down in there. Let's do this by hand. There she is. Alright. So that is off, as you can sort of see. Alright, so that is disconnected now. Wiring harness. Okay. Next, I'm going to pull off this hose here. You just hold on to that little clip right there, and I'm going to pull it. Off that comes. Next, this is my apparently jerry-rigged, looks like it's the hose for my, looks like it's the hose for my dipstick. So let's get that off real quick. So we can't pull that off. Yep. And now that's off. Alright, let's see what else we got. Almost forgot the power cable for the auxiliary fan. This is the fan that draws all the heat out of the motor on this side of the engine. So right here, you just pull that tab this way and then pull out, and she will come undone. Alright, now let's get that AC compressor unbolted. So, down in here is where that third bolt is that holds down the AC compressor. Now remember, we're not taking the lines off the compressor because that way we can just hook it back up to the motor when we're done. So, down into there, and got it. Okay, next. Now, the 3 bolts, there's 2 more bolts here on that compressor. I can show you right here. First one, you can see I already have it raised up so you can kind of see it. There's number 1, and then number 2, there it is right there. See how it's raised up? There's number 3 right there. So go ahead and pull those 2 out, and then this thing, just let your AC compressor sit right there for now. Eventually we'll put it into the car in a plastic bag. Alright, so there's bolt number 1 on that AC compressor. And then bolt number 2 on the AC compressor. Pull that out. Now if you notice, obviously there's the third bolt, the longest bolt, is the one that goes down there. The 2 other ones are the ones that are up in here. I think we can pull this out. Now I had previously sucked up all the fluid in this with a turkey baster, and you're going to get still some leakage. So just have something below. There we go. And she's out. Okay, so there's all the top connections for the Boxster motor. Next thing we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to start in on the wiring harness in the trunk area, and then we'll go underneath. Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of our Porsche Boxster engine removal. I gotta come clean on a few things in that first video that were totally unnecessary to be done when detaching some of those items on the top of the motor. Let me go over a few of those things right now. That way you don't repeat the same things, and this will go a lot smoother and a lot faster for you. Let's check it out. The first thing that did not have to be disconnected was this connection right here in between cylinders 4 and 5. It comes out with the wiring harness, so it does not need to be removed. So save that. The next one is taking out the 2 bolts that hold down the B+ box in the engine. That can just stay in place. Just do disconnect the ground wire right there. The other one is the secondary air pump. It didn't really need to be removed from the car. It could have been just left in there, but totally disconnected from the hose and the electrical connections. The other one is, if I do this again, I'm going to remove the axles from the car completely and drop the engine and transmission down as one unit. Alright, day 2 of the Porsche Boxster engine drop. We're now in the trunk of our Boxster. We've pulled out the carpet, We've pulled all of it out just that way we can get a view of what's all in here, and somehow my fuse box back here is not bolted in, so that will have to get done at some point in time. So here are the cables that need to be done. Now they're marked. I'm sure you can see it back here, maybe not. So they're numbered. Now let me pull them off. So the top one, just a simple push, wiggle, 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 out it comes. Then these, there's several of those. Get in there. This button up here, we're going to push it in and then slide that arm across. So let's see if I can do it. There you go. Just like that. So that arm, I have to push that button in, and then bam. See that? And then just pulls right out. So now we can start to see there's 5, there's 4. So they're numbered, and you can't, they won't go in any other direction of ports. So you don't have to really worry about that too much. So I'm just going to get all these disconnected here. And this one down here. Alright, so those are out. Next is our ground strap. We'll pull those off. Some ground wires. Put that back on. Alright, so it doesn't look like we're going to need to pull the rest of those out. I think these here will just stay inside the car for now. But here's that wiring harness that's coming through that we're going to have to poke this through. This bad boy right here. So eventually we're going to have to pop this off and get in there and push those cables through that right there. The other thing we need to do while we're up here, go ahead and pull off some of this stuff. I've already removed the little liner that was in there. Pull all this off. Then this, if I remember correctly, maybe I gotta pop those in. Pull that off. Go ahead and just get yourself a pair of pliers. Pinch those 2 tabs that are in there. And when you do that, it's going to pop out on the back end just like that. Gonna hold that off to the side. Alright. We got that done. Well, I think we're done in the trunk. Let's go downtown and see what's underneath this bad boy. Okay, we're now underneath. We're going to remove this support bar. There's bolts on both sides. We're eventually going to remove the transmission brace here and here, not that. So that whole piece will come out on both sides. We're also going to remove the 2 shift cables and the bolts holding on the drive axles, and then this thing should be ready to come out. Oh, and the clutch slave up there as well needs to come out. Also, I guess while we're down here, these longitudes, there's that metal plate that should go right in here. Yeah, you can see these are completely done. I've also removed beforehand, I took off the sway bar. There's just 2 bolts that come out of here, and we'll drop this down. And then there's the drop link over there. That's just simple. Undo that nut, and that sway bar will come down, and you can move that out of the way. What else we got? I think for now, let's get back up and let's support the engine from up top, because once we move these supports, there's going to be weight on that motor. We want to relieve that stress, and then we can take off the 8 bolts that hold on the transmission. And that'll be enough for day 2. Alright, let's go. I want to talk a little bit about supporting the engine if you're going to take out the transmission separately than the engine. If you're going to do the motor and the tranny together, still probably should do this, but it's not as necessary as when you're pulling off the transmission first and then the motor, and then putting things back in that reverse order. So what I have here is an engine hoist, or what's affectionately called a cherry picker. And again, I didn't need to run out and buy any special tools to pull this motor. screwdrivers, socket set, basic stuff. But I do have a young man who's dating my daughter, and he happened to have one of these in his garage. And I thought, you know what? If you're going to date my daughter, then the old cliche of, you know, what's yours is mine, and your time is my time, so slave labor. So he'll be coming over tomorrow to help me pull this motor. But in the meantime, I'm using his cherry picker, and so it's not costing me anything to find one of these. You can buy one at Harbor Freight for a couple $100. You might be able to find one on Craigslist for $100 or something. Unless you're doing a lot of this, it may be best just to kind of put a post on social media, see if one of your friends or buddies have one of these, and if they do, then definitely buy them a 6-pack or a 12-pack of beer, and get yourself to use it for a couple days. Alright, so that there is going to support the engine while we get doing the rest of the work. Okay, next we need to remove these bolts here from the axle. You want to take those off, and that is a number 8 hex head. To take those off, put the car in first gear, and then that will lock this from moving. You can then breaker these loose. Might have to have a breaker bar on hand as well to get everything loose. Then, once you have all the bolts out, your CV joint axle will just come down, just like that. Now, if those are down, we'll go ahead and strap these up or tie them up so there's not too much tension on those right there. But we'll get to that here in just a minute. Let's see, what do we turn our, let's go for, let's get that clutch slave. So right up there is that clutch slave, and you can see that 13mm bolt that's holding that contraption up with the bleeder valve on top, like you would for a brake system, and that metal line that's coming out of it, which is your, that coils up, that is the hydraulic line for the clutch slave. So let's get in there and take that off real quick, just a 13mm on that, and that should pop out. So there's the top of the transmission. There's a series of 8 bolts around. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 1 over there, 1 down there. So there's 8 all the way around that need to come off. Now we went ahead and just loosened them up for now, but we need to go back down and loosen up the bottom bolts and support the transmission with a jack, and then we can take off the transmission support brackets, and then I think we're ready for this thing to come out. Let's get it. Okay, next. Time to start taking off these brackets for the transmission mount. So 13mm up on top, and then you're going to put a ratchet down here and just spin it off. Let me do that real quick. That then should just come off. Pop that bolt out. Next, we got to get to that one back there, and that one up there. So let's see if we can get. So in some of the earlier cars, they will have this 3-prong clip to keep this cable secure. Once you pry those back, screwdriver, okay, so it has these spring clips. Pop those off, and then take the screwdriver and get it up underneath, and it's going to pop off just like that, just like on top with the convertible top, the cables that clunk down on that ball joint, same principle right there. Let's get this other one off now. Okay, so here are the 2 bolts that attach the brace to the transmission. Get it in there. Alright, so these are the bolts that hold the transmission to the engine. There's 8 of them all the way around. The supports are out. Drive lines are done. We have the jack supported, the tranny supported by the jack. And that was ESPN. The Yankees are probably starting to play. And clutch slave is out, so we should pull these 8 bolts and slide this tranny. Something I've always done is when I pull the bolts out on the tranny, get a cardboard box and kind of put the bolts in pattern of how they go into the transmission to bolt it up to the engine. Notice that this one here should have been a triple square, but it was not. So at some point in time, somebody's been in there. But everything else looked to be pretty much right on. So yeah, that's an easy little tip there for you. And this right here is the backlit light switch. Just pull that off. Okay, so now jack is secured to the tranny using a come along strap. Everything looks to be disconnected. And we should be ready to pull this out. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, hold on. There we go. Alright guys, before we get started on this third part of the series of removing the Boxster motor, I'm just doing a little bit of work on the new motor before we put it in. Kind of an update on this. It's the final stretch is basically just taking care of the hoses underneath the car and getting a jack to support the engine as you lower it down to the ground and get it out of there. So without further ado, let's get started and take care of this thing. Alright guys, so we're underneath the car. This is going to be on the driver's side, and what you're seeing are the 2 black lines are the power steering fluid lines, return and send, and that blue line is your hydraulic fluid for your clutch slave. Do not take off the blue line, just the 2 black ones. They simply just pull apart and let those drain. Remember, this is that Pitocin, so that is some nasty ass shit. So I probably should have been wearing gloves, but sometimes, you know, I just don't like the feel of latex and rather have pure skin there. Alright, let those 2 drain and clean yourself up and get ready for this. Okay, now under the engine, you need to disconnect both of these fuel lines, and they're simply just little push tabs. You push in and pop out, and then push in and pop out. Those will pop in and out for you. So the next hose you have to worry about is this one right here. There, it runs up, but it connects to the engine right up here. And let's see if I can show that. But it's clamped on. Alright, next thing's next. Let's go ahead and drain the fluid, the coolant, out of the motor. Just simply unscrew this port and bam! She will drain out. All that drain out, and while you're under there, go ahead and pull the oil plug as well and oil filter, and make sure you have 0 fluids in the motor when you get ready to take it out. We'll need to pull the hose from the bottom here. This is the hose that we need to undo for the water pump. This is the hose going into the thermostat housing, which is this big one up here. And when you pull this one here, you're also going to pull it from over here. And this is actually the line that takes you, kind of follow it here, up, up, up. Follow that line, and that is the line that, if we can see here, that is the line that goes into the expansion tank. So when you fill up the coolant, that's where it runs to. It goes through the hose out to the coolant tank, through that hose right there that you can see, into the metal line, and then down, and then into the water pump right there. So then once you have that line removed, which this is the line back to the reservoir, this hose here, which is kind of a one-piece hose, detach, and detach. Take this and pull this off. You can pull this one off after you remove the plate that goes right here. Take it off there, take this one off here, take that one off there. So with this, we have all the underlining water hoses and coolant hoses. Over on the driver's side is where you'll find the fuel hoses and the power steering hoses. Everything else stays in place. Nothing else is going to move over here. As you can tell, I already have my exhaust manifold removed, as the replacement engine that we got did not have those, so we're going to pull those from our old engine and pop those on. Alright, so pull this plug and drain the oil and make sure we're empty, and we'll take it from there. Man, we are down to the final step here. Make sure you have your engine supported into jack, and you need to remove these 4 bolts. This is your motor mount. This is the last thing that's kind of holding the engine to the car. Once you remove those 4 bolts out, the only thing supporting this engine is going to be your support up top. So let's get ready to pull this sucker. So it took us quite a bit of time to get this motor out, and it wasn't until my beautiful wife comes over and says, "Hey, what about that right there? If you move that, it'll come out." And sure enough, just like my beautiful smart wife is, as soon as I moved that one wire, that one hose out of the way, here it comes, and away we go.
Where is that? Are you okay?
Here it is.
I don't think it's really not going anywhere. Alright, so we have the new engine, and it's about, you should probably look it over and make sure everything is ready to go, and be prepared for stuff that's not. Like the clips are not down, we found throttle cable unplugged, someone's already been inside the clutch, so we're going to have to get all new bolts that we weren't prepared for. So even though they're cheap, we'll need to do that. You can see it's going to have to be set back into place, so we need a pin as well. While the engine's out, we're going to replace the AOS. It's cheap, it's only $100, and it's easier to do it now than it is when the engine is in the car. Around the front, we notice the alternator is a quality unit from AutoZone, because it's a Pro Start, made in China. Yep, there's that. Water pump doesn't have any play in it. The motor mount looks good. Yeah, much better than the old motor mount. Alright, so look over your new motor. You may have to move over some parts from your old engine, or buy stuff if you need to when you get it. Okay guys, after 3 days and about 8 hours, 10 hours total, we're ready to fire this bad boy up and see how well we did and if it's going to run. Let's go. Give it a shot here. Fire in the hole, people. Okay guys, just a recap. We pulled the motor from this 2001 Porsche Boxster in my home garage, just using basic hand tools. Mostly myself, and occasionally I had a couple buddies help me pull us all together. But if I could do this in my garage with simple hand tools, and this is the first time I've pulled a M96 motor out, you guys can do it. So let's check it out one more time. Here we go. Now I still have to put the mufflers on it, and there's still a lot more to do. There's obviously the paint needs some work. I need to work on all the little plastic bits underneath the car. I need to get rid of a few things. I want to switch back to the old headlights. Man, that is loud without the headers on there. But overall, we need to do the seats. I need to fix the window regulator. The spoiler needs to be worked on. But overall, the car is up and running, and I'm going to enjoy it. And yeah, so you can pull the motor in your Porsche Boxster in your home garage in about 10 hours with basic hand tools. Thanks guys for watching. Hope to see you soon.